All right. Well, welcome back to Post Frame 360. One of your hosts here, Scott Cragg, along with
Josh Nowlin.
Nowlin. And he is tag team representing. We got a
Yep.
little bit of NFBA shirt going on, some Post Frame 360 swag. Josh, you're just becoming a fashionista, buddy.
I know.
Yeah.
Rodeo, right, Emily?
Rodeo. Well, speaking of Rodeo, so if you're watching online, you realize we now have 2 additional guests. We are pleased to welcome Paul and Emily Marshall of Mr. Post Frame. And yes, before we jumped on here, Emily was sharing with us, it's not rodeo, it's rodeo. And so,
For real.
Josh and I are getting a little bit of culture. Lord knows we need it. But so we shared with you guys that leading up to Post Frame 360, leading up to the NFBA, Post Frame 360 was going to bring some of the keynote speakers to share a little bit about what they'll be discussing at NFBA and to give you the information you need to decide, hey, which one am I going to go participate in? I think one of our previous guests said, hey, if you're bringing employees, if you're bringing partners in your business, rather than everyone going to one of the sessions, hey, split up and check out different sessions that you feel like the titles would apply to your business. And then come back after that, do a powwow and catch up and say, hey, here's what we learned and here's how we can apply this. So Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce a little more fully Paul and Emily. And then guys, we're going to let you take it away.
Well, the official introduction will come at the session, right? But when I had sent out this request to podcast with you guys, I was looking at the one that was titled "Building Barndos: Opportunity or Headache," because I'm thinking, there are a lot of people that listen to us are probably wondering that same question,
Right?
How to answer it. And that one is actually kicking the show off, right? Wednesday, I think at 8:00 in the morning. So. I'm excited to have you guys on Post Frame 360 and excited to see you guys in person again at the NFBA in Oklahoma City. You're coming to a warmer climate and I've got to go to a colder one. So, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So welcome, Paul and Emily. Why don't you explain to our listeners why they should come and listen to your session at the show, or sessions, I hear.
Go ahead, Em.
Sure.
I'll let you lead it off. I know you have a lot to say.
So, well, thank you so much for having us on. We are very excited to share talk to you guys and then also come to the NFBA. It is one of our favorite shows to attend every single year. We've been there for a long time because as our name suggests, Mr. Post Frame, we are passionate about post frame construction. So a whole show dedicated to promoting that type of construction is up our alley. So as Josh mentioned, we're having some education sessions that we're the speakers at. We actually have 3 during the whole course of the expo. The first one is Paul and I, we're going to be doing Building Barndos: Opportunity or Headache. And this is going to be a fantastic session for you if you are part of the leadership team of a business, your small crew that is, you're out there trying to get business and stuff, and you are wondering, should we have Barndominiums be a part of our business model? And if so, like, what are some ideas or ways that we can actually do that? What should we offer? How should we go about it? What do we tell customers? What are our, we're post frame builders. We're building barns every day. How do we go to building a house? Like, what does that actually mean? So Paul's going to be sharing just some of the basics of that transition of residential construction versus agricultural or commercial construction. We're going to be talking about the general contracting process and how you may or may not want to be a part of that when it comes to a Barndominium client. So even if you think, I don't really like the idea of Barndominiums in my business, I still would encourage you to come because it could provide some great insight and show you how it's a lot easier than you might think. But at the same time, just like really practical ways to work it in.
I like what I heard there. And you had mentioned, general contracting and this is just my opinion, but I do think that if you're someone who's having a hard time navigating through what it is to really be and promote to be a Barndominium seller, is you could also partner with, if you're just a builder and you're just like, Hey, I'm Paul. I just love to go out here and swing a hammer. I don't really I don't want to sit down at your dinner table with you and your wife for 3 hours while you argue about what color tile you're putting in your house. There are people that, custom home builders, general contractors, that they're really good at that. But what they're not good at is building a post frame structure into a home. So maybe there's some partnership opportunities. Is that what I heard you
Yeah, I
saying,
think
Emily?
so. And we have a unique perspective because we're a lot different than most post frame builders. Most post frame builders start building sheds, shops, things like that. Simple. You're in and out in a few days. Where we started building barndos. Um, we didn't build shops or garages. Now we have, but our primary purpose is to build homes. So we have gone through that whole process and learned it. And it is a great opportunity. Barndominiums are huge right now. We all know that. But it's a great opportunity, but it's also a big headache if you don't know what you're doing and if you don't put the right people in places. So I think our session is going to be really valuable for the small crew all the way up to the large crew. And I think, or businesses, because I think some of these larger businesses that are building 200-300 buildings, they have some of the infrastructure already in place to maybe be the general contractor, where smaller, like you said, Josh, companies, it'd be better off to maybe partner with a local GC or something where they can take over the project once the building's up. We're going to talk about some of the difficulties. Building a house is not like building a building. The metal work is a lot more in depth. A lot of times when you go and build a building, you have a whole wall with no windows, no openings. And some of these barndominiums that we've built, like cutting the metal is a real art if that's the cladding you're choosing. So there's a lot of things we'll talk about in that perspective as well.
There's three things there. I'm gonna try to remember all three as I comment on that. I think I won't work backwards. Maybe that's how my mind works best. So you mentioned like house versus barn. Something that I recognize, and I think it's good for our listeners to know, when you're out there building a shop or a barn, the level of perfectionism or attention to detail by your owner is a whole lot different than when you build their home, right? Like there's very, very little margin. Oh, there's a little scratch on the corner. Hey, there maybe it's a little ding here. Barn, probably not that big of a deal. On their house, you better believe it's a big deal. The other part, something that you said, Paul, and I think this is so important to recognize. It's one thing to be a post frame barn builder and then think, oh, I want to go try to build a barndominium. That's whew, that's tough. But to have been a home builder and then go into building a barndominium home, the transition to, oh, you want me to build you a shop? Like that's a really easy transition, right? But trying to go from just a shop builder to a barndo builder, that requires more planning, which goes to Emily, something you said. Whether you already do barndominiums or you don't, you should come to this session. If you are doing barndominiums already, I'm sure you probably have some of the pain and are wincing a little bit with some of the things you've already heard. Probably got yourself into a mess a couple of times if you weren't properly planning. But if you're thinking about doing barndominiums, you should come to this because I would say, just from my own experience of one, having built them, but number two, living in one, you don't want to go off half cocked. You don't want to throw out some bids and, hey, I got a barndominium. That will absolutely bite you in the butt. You really got to plan and you have to have the right partnerships. You got to know what you're doing. If you don't understand code or permitting, like there's a lot that goes here. It's like spinning about 100 plates when you build a barn dough. So I hope that makes sense and resonates. That's just what kind of popped into my head as I was hearing your discussion there.
Yes. Yes. And it's, when it comes back to being in the post frame industry and building post frame, Paul and I, you guys might know that in addition to supporting the professional space, we're big proponents of supporting the DIYer.
Mm.
Paul self-built our barndominium that we live in. So we work with hundreds of DIYers that are looking to manage their own project, to build their own project, but far and away, the majority of them are still seeking out someone to put that structure up. They need
Mhm.
that component. So for the post frame industry, barndominiums are a huge opportunity to stay in their lane for the most part, be really good at being a post frame builder, be excellent at their metalwork, and have a thriving business that can partner with GCs in your area, or local, or your DIYer, because they're still looking for that. So it's a really huge opportunity in the market. And we just want to break down how you can practically figure out what is going to be the best way for your business to execute it. Because if you haven't gotten a phone call about, do you do a barndominium, this must be your first day in business.
So a
Right.
question, will you cover in your session, will you talk a little bit about the um, financing or the payment side of barndominium? And the reason why I ask that question is I do know some of our contractors have got caught off guard, right? That it's very rare that someone's going to come and say, hey, I want a $500,000 barndominium and I've got $500,000 in my hand, right? Like they're probably going to finance that. And if you've not been through that experience before, you have to go through stages to get paid. And if you don't plan that well, again, you're going to find yourself in a pickle with your suppliers, with your subs. So is that something you'll also kind of talk about a little bit?
Yes. Yeah. We'll go over just like understanding the magnitude that
Mm,
whether you're doing just one portion or you're doing the whole thing, the client in their brain is spending all the money, and literally spending
right.
all the money. So how do you navigate that? How do you stay involved without actually being, if you're not going to be in charge? Just what all of those things. Like we have what we call a phase process of,
Mm,
like, here's your lines in the sand.
right.
Like here's where you as a builder can say, I go this far and no further, or I go this far and so how do you graduate that and then incorporate? That's how you can then put together a payment schedule, figure out lenders that you can work with that will understand that, and make sure that you and the customer are both protected financially during the process.
And I think the phase process is really good for builders because, when you go, most of these are slab on grade, right? So if you decide, hey, we're going to take this past the structure, maybe our phase 2 is to drywall. Well, now you have to get a plumber involved for under slab plumbing. You got to get an electrician involved to bring the power in. So I think, deciding on, hey, we're willing to go phase 1 or we're willing to take to phase 2 is really important. And I think it'll help builders kind of gauge what they're capable of or what they actually want to take on.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad we're having this conversation. And again, if you haven't built a barndominium, I'm glad you're listening now. Don't tune out and plan to be at the NFBA, because I think what you're realizing here is, you know, building a barndominium, depending on how far you're going to get into it. If you're saying, hey, you're responsible for building the slab, I'm just going to build you a shell and then you take off from there. It's generally not that simple, right? I do love, Emily, what you said. You said it can be, paraphrasing, easy. It's not as hard as you think. It's not if you plan correctly. And I'm telling you, this is something, Josh, you and I have talked about this: scopes of work, contracts, payment schedules. Like, guys, these are things you do not shortcut. All
Mhm.
right. If you're not
Yeah.
familiar with scopes of work, change orders, contracts, like this is not like a post frame barn. Building a house, completely different.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you mentioned contracts, and not to take us off topic too much, but when you're looking at, if you're primarily a barn builder and you're building a home for someone, your contract needs to look different. It's a different contract totally.
Yes.
A residential dwelling versus a backyard barn. So
Mhm.
yeah, just interested to see what you guys think about that, and then we can move on to talk about your next class. I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah. So right after Paul and I do our session about incorporating being a builder of barndominiums, Liv Berg, who she owns Back 40 Buildings with Paul and I. It's an nationwide architectural firm that specializes in barndominium design per construction type. And we're going to do a session on, the sales cycle. That is what we're going to focus on of the
Mhm.
barndominium clients. So let's pretend you come to Paul and I's first session and you think to yourself, okay, I'm interested. Then you just hop right into the next session. Why your Barno clients are burning out. practical processes to master the Barndominium cycle.
Mm.
And so we're going to cover a lot of, like, Josh, you just kind of started touching on contracts. It's that getting to yes. If you have experienced a Barndominium client before, it is completely different than a barn client.
Mhm.
You could call a guy could call you up like it in an hour, and by the end of the afternoon, you could have a signed contract for his barn, for his tractor. It will take you months and months and months to actually get to the finish line, the contract signing, and all of that when it comes to a Barndominium client. Because again, let's not forget, they're thinking about this massive, like, life investment that they're making. They're thinking about a massive lifestyle change potentially that they're about to make. They're dreaming. A
Mhm.
guy who wants a barn for his tractor, that may or may not have anything to do with his life dreams. A Barndominium client, they have been dreaming, they have been hoping, they have been praying, and they are just excited to make this happen for their family. So the sales cycle is daunting, and it is long, and it is drawn out. And that's what we're going to cover is, how do you make that part less daunting? You say yes to the person on the phone. Yes, I do build Barndominiums, and you cover the scope of work with them. You kind of, but then how do I get them to yes? How do
Mhm.
I get them to? So what do I need to do? How do I get a design in place for them? How do I stay a part of that design process? How do I manage all of those things until the client is actually signing on the dotted line and we're actually ready to break ground?
That's
I love
awesome.
that. I love that. This is good because whenever, I first started, and having been with my previous company that I was a part of, we did a lot of post frame, did a lot of high end post frame. And yeah, like that was something that I had to learn myself. Is someone calls up, is first is properly qualifying that customer,
Mm.
right? What do they want? It's one of the things that I've said is there's a lot of talented architects out there that draw some amazing designs, but just because it's on paper doesn't mean you can build that, right?
Right.
And metal does not function like wood. You can't cut it the same way. You can't do some of the same things you can with like wood or some of the other materials. And so one is being able to ask the right questions. And it sounds like that's one of the things you're going to talk about when you talk about the sales cycle of a barn dominium is before you even get to the, are they going to say yes, knowing how to ask the right questions and not being afraid. Because I know it happens. You see the dollar signs. Oh man, barn dominium, like, ooh, this is $300,000. My barns are like $50,000. Don't let the dollar signs blind you. You're going to have to say no sometimes. If they want something that is outside your skill set, you either have a partner that can help you get it done, or you say no. Because I'm telling you right now, this will be a money pit. If you say yes and you create an expectation that you cannot meet on someone's home, it's very unlikely you're going to get out of there with your final payment, and it's very unlikely you're going to get out of there profitable. So making sure you take the time, learning from you know professionals like Paul and Emily who do this. Barndos are a unique niche, and you need to do your homework and learn how to do this well, or it will. From my own experience, it can be a nightmare.
Yes. Yeah. So, the first session, you're going to really like nail down, like, what am I good at when it comes to actual construction?
Hmm.
What am I really good at managing? What am I good at doing physically with my hands? Or what's my crew? Where do they shine? But
Mm.
then it's like the prequel is the next session of like, how do I afford to spend the number of hours that it will take not building anything for
Hmm.
them? That there's so much manpower that's involved in that sales process, and the tire kickers, and so we've built a, wonderful structure of resources and a path to show. We literally will show you during this session a path of like, how do you take them through that,
Hmm.
and without you being necessarily involved in every single step. You still are connected to the client, but your hours aren't the ones being spent on it. They're being productive with other avenues and other resources.
And from a builder standpoint, the thing that led us into owning a design firm is just like you said, you get these set of plans, and CAD is amazing. It can do things that aren't aren't possible.
Mhm.
And you're like, how am I supposed to build this? And then you got to go to the client and say, well, this isn't going to quite look like this. So we're going to have to change this. And that's frustrating. So you can't, if you're going to build Barndominiums, you can't go to your client and just give them an open slate. You're better off, if you're going to take them through the process, is be involved in that design process, either partner with a company or control that, especially if it's going to be a post frame Barndominium.
Mm.
If it's going to be true post frame, you want to control that post spacing, the truss spacing that you like, all of those things that go into it, or it's going to be a nightmare. You're going to end up sending your crew out, like Emily said. Maybe your crew does 4 foot on center, maybe they do 8 foot on center, and you throw a wrench in there and say, well, we're going to build this all 2 foot on center trusses, and it's not what they normally do. So that's going to slow down your timeline. It's going to add more time, which is going to make you less money. And those are things we learned the hard way. So that's kind of how we got into design, so we could kind of control that structure. So when we were going in to build it, I wanted our guys to be able to repeat, whether it's a barn, whether it's a home, like the framing of the structure is the same. And so I think that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, that's good. I tell you, wow, Emily, something you said there about a plan because you're right. I don't think, again, a lot of people realize how many hours, if you don't have a good plan around barndominiums, how many hours you'll invest and not never build a thing. Like, you are so spot on with that. So guys, if you've experienced that, I think right now, if you're not signed up for NFBA, you should, and you should certainly be a part of Paul and Emily's session, because Emily, I like what you're saying about there is a plan so that those hours on the front end, they're not you using your hours. You've certainly got me intrigued. If there is a plan like that, and I was a contractor out doing barndominiums, and I'm not just trying to push NFBA, but that was something that I experienced. It was, man, so many hours just to finally get them to a point where I can even give them a price, right? Because when you're dealing with, I don't know, well, maybe that corner goes too high, or maybe I don't know, do I want 2 foot overhangs or do I want 1 foot overhangs? Like, oh my gosh. So I love what you're saying here. And man, that's valuable in and of itself.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, barndominiums, the hours have to get spent. It takes time.
Yes.
Some people are more decisive than others, of course, but it's always going to be a lot more time spent than it is for like an agricultural building that you're putting together for a customer. So, so it's just you just don't have the resources to. Not every builder has the resources to be good at what they're doing in the field and sit there on the phone all day taking these calls. And also, if you're the owner of the company, your sales team especially if they get kickback on all their sales, isn't going to be interested in on the phone every day for an hour with somebody that's going to take 8 months to get paid on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that we have to address that and say, how do you motivate your sales team to actually give good customer service and actually close those leads too?
Is that a segue into your third session?
Actually not. We're going to switch gears. I step out of session 3. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear about session 3, and I'm going to tell our listeners, normally we try to keep our podcast to 30 minutes or less, but guys, we're at 23 right now. We're going over today. All right. And so if you get tired of listening to Paul and Emily, which I doubt you will, you can shut us off, but we're going to keep going.
No, they can't.
I've got to hear about
no. We've got a built-in non-shut-off device in all these podcasts. So once you start, you're in.
We need that for our YouTube channel. Not allowed
we will know who you are if you turn us off early, and we're going to address this.
Yeah, we know who you are, and your prices will increase.
Yeah.
I forget, what is the actual title of our third one, Em?
Well, the actual title of session 3 that our organization is a part of is Sealed and Certified, the real deal on spray foam for post frame construction.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to talk. I have a good friend, Mike Dyna from Spray Jones. He is a spray foam contractor up in Canada, one of the harshest climates up there. He's been doing it for over 20 years. I met him through an experience I had with spray foam a long time ago, and we've become really good friends. I'm a part of his Think Spray Foam group. So it's a group where you can go in there and ask any question you want, and you can get answers from people that are in the spray foam industry. So we're going to talk about how spray foam can be utilized in post frame. And our goal with this is not to convince people that they need to use spray foam in their buildings. We're doing this session so that we can give everybody the tools they need to go out and make a good decision on if they use spray foam. What are the things that I need to pay attention to? What are the things that I need to look out for? What is the best spray foam to use? Is it open cell? Is it closed cell? We're going to talk about the geographical differences when you're talking about a structure, especially when you get into barndominiums and finishing them out. There's this thing called a vapor barrier, and it's different across all of the building zones from the south to the north. So we're going to equip everybody, all these builders that want to use spray foam and insulation in general, on the benefits of spray foam, the structural integrity aspect that comes with it if you're using closed cell. I think it's going to be a really, really great session. I think it's one of those ones you don't want to miss. There's a lot of controversy right now, obviously, with spray foam, and we're gonna bring real facts and evidence with us to show, like, hey, if you use it, it's like every other aspect of a build. Whenever there's a person involved, something can get screwed up, right? Like, so if your crew doesn't install the steel the way it's supposed to, there can be leaking problems. And it's no different with spray foam or other insulations, your house wrap. And so we were just going to kind of hit all that stuff and send everybody out really equipped and confident to move forward and use spray foam if they want to.
I think the biggest question that I hear, especially, from our clients, is that, does it void the metal warranty? Does it, and so, I think that I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that. And yeah, this sounds like a really good session. What do you think, Scott? Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I want to let Paul comment on the warranty part, and then I love this topic.
It's going to be a really good one because Mike Dyna, once you guys hear him, he's obviously in the spray foam industry, right? So he loves spray foam. I love spray foam, but the thing that I love about him is he's really practical, and he has documentation to back up everything that he says. So it's not just, I'm going to throw this out there that, oh, spray foam's flammable, it's going to burn your building down. No, like, what are the actual facts and science behind it? Because at the end of the day, that's the truth. Anybody can get on YouTube and say whatever they want, and people take it as truth. So I really want builders to be confident, if that's their choice, to know that it is safe to use. I mean, it comes down to installation with anything. But I think it's going to be a great session. There's going to be a ton of valuable information. We're going to talk about vapor barriers, all the myths that are surrounded by it. And I think it's going to be a well-attended one. It should be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so good. From my own experience, here's what I would say about that. If there's an area not to cut a corner, which you shouldn't cut corners in any area, I'm all about efficiency. And cost savings where you can, but not at the cost of quality and long-term usage. Don't let the spray foam be an area where you cut corners. I can tell you personally, if you have someone that doesn't know what they're doing and it's not mixed right, some people can have issues. Some people are super sensitive to the smell. And so, this is an area where, Paul, I'm glad you're doing this. You need to understand spray foam, because if it's a service you're offering, you better make sure you're choosing the right person who knows how to do it right. And if you're turning this over to your homeowner and letting them, basically take care of that themselves, don't lack knowledge in how to guide them. You can set yourself apart. You can be a resource even for some of the areas that maybe you're not actually making money on. But going above and beyond and being knowledgeable in some of these areas, even if, again, you're not the one subbing it, it makes you a resource and a consultant to that customer. And ultimately, you may not put money in your pocket on this job, but if you're knowledgeable and you guide them in the right direction, guess what? You've got a really strong possibility of a strong referral for the next customer, right? So I love that you're going to talk about this. I've seen it done terrible. I've seen a job, beautiful, expensive, $250,000 man cave building, came in with spray foam. It's like, why would you spend that much money on a building and take a shortcut on a foam company? They had just finished whenever I got there. There was spray foam coming out around the hydrants on the side of the house. It was coming out of the soffit vents, destroyed a $250,000 building. So don't make those mistakes. Go to this session. You really, really should.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think everybody's going to enjoy it. This session could be hours upon hours long. So we're trying to cram it down and yet have some Q&A. So we're going to hit all the main points. I'm really excited about it. Actually, this will be the first time that Mike Dinah and I have met in person. And so this will be pretty cool. We've been friends for years and years, and it's always been over Zoom and things like that. So it's going to be fun.
That's great. Well, we are at that 30-minute mark. Josh, you said we were going to go over, but Paul, Emily, thank you so much. This is something that I know from the way we serve our customers and seeing how many are doing Barndominiums successfully, who are just getting into that area of Barndominiums, and then also who have had them go south, right? Wherever you're at in that timeline of your business as it relates to Barndominiums and spray foam, I would highly encourage you, make the NFBA a priority, but certainly making a point to attend these sessions with Paul and Emily. So with that, Josh, I'm going to let you close this out, do your thing, and we'll get out of here.
Opportunity or headache, I think it's really up to your mindset at the end of the day, right? I certainly think it's an opportunity. And if you're thinking it's a headache, I think with a little mindset adjustment, you could find out or let Emily tell you why it could be a real opportunity for your business. Thank you guys so much for being on our show. As for our listeners, if you like what you hear, please share, subscribe to our podcast, share it. And we appreciate you guys and look forward to seeing you in OKC.
Yeah. Paul, Emily, any last words before we close it out?
Well, thank you. We're very excited to see you guys and help promote post frame industry.
See you guys in a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll be there. All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us on Post Frame 360. We'll see you next time.